Welcome, ladies and gentle-orcs. In this video, I'm going to tell you about formations, how you need them, why you need them, and what role each part of your formation is supposed to be fulfilling. To win a battle, you need as much order and control as you can get. Without it, you're basically walking into your own slaughter. So it's time for a schooling. Now, I've noticed online that a lot of people attack with literally no formation at all. The reason this is dangerous is it becomes very easy for someone to come up behind you, flank you, and attack your units in the back. If this happens, the unit will start to fall very quickly. They'll lose a lot of health, many will die, and they'll probably rout very quickly. So a sturdy formation to attack from is very important. So this here is a good strong basic formation. If you have no idea how to set up your army, start with something like this. Now your army is going to be broken down into three main parts, starting with the center. Your main troops, your battle line, your front line, the guys that are going to do most of the killing. And ideally, we want to keep this line as straight as possible with no gaps, but that isn't always easy. And then protecting the left side of your centre is your left wing or left flank. Their role is to stop your opponent's right wing or any kind of unit getting behind your centre, typically cavalry because they move a lot quicker. The right wing, for exactly the same purpose, just on the right side. And it's generally a good idea to put spears or any kind of anti-large unit on the wings to deal with those threats. And then below centre, you could have some reserves, units that are there to fill a hole should one appear, or if one of your wings needs some help, they can answer the call. And then out front you'll have your missile troops to try and do a bit of damage before the enemy arrives, and then you pull them back behind your battle line to keep them safe. So this is one of many ways that you could set up your army. As long as you have a centre, a left wing and a right wing, you can get creative with it and pretty much do what you want. If you've ever watched any Total War tournaments, you'll see this sort of thing in this sort of formation very often. And if both players have a formation, the battle will typically play out in one of three ways, depending on the composition of the army and the personal preference of the player. The first way is that you will be the aggressor. Your opponent will just sit there defensively, not move their army, and you'll be forced to move up to attack them, which may be fine if that's what you want. People typically won't move if they have a ranged or terrain advantage, or maybe if they're just scared. The second way is that you play very defensively, for the same reasons. You protect your flanks, you fight along the front lines, and you try to react to whatever the enemy throws at you. And the last way is for both armies to be offensive and clash in the middle. Whichever way it plays out, you'll usually have some kind of battle line, whether it be straight, curved, or a bit all over the place. As long as there's a line and there's not too many gaps, you're all good. Out on the wings, it can be a battle of its own. So there's usually three battles going on, centre, left wing, right wing. If you win one of these battles, you gain an advantage. If you win all three, you win the game. Now let's talk about battle line composition. So this is the line I had in that first clip I showed you of the formation. I had 4 swordsmen in the middle, 2 greatswords on the edges, and then halberds, they were on my wings. So that gave my line strong edges. But what about if I put these swordsmen both on the left? That would give me a strong left side, giving me a higher chance of breaking my opponent's right side. I could put the greatswords in the middle of my centre, thus making the centre of my centre extra strong, giving me a higher chance of breaking through at that point. It kind of depends what unit they happen to be facing. But instead of bringing those 4 units of swordsmen, I could, for about the same price, bring 2 extra units of greatswords, thus making my entire centre very strong, but very short. 4 units compared to 7-8 units isn't as long, and that can be dangerous, but we'll talk about that in a minute. To illustrate the quality versus quantity and money side of things, here I could get 7 units of Chaos Marauders, the cheapest unit on the Chaos Warriors, with some halberds on the flanks, 7 units battle line in the middle. For the same price, I could get only 2 units of the best unit that the Chaos Warriors have available, the chosen with great weapons. 1,500 each, that comes to 3,000. All these Chaos Marauders cost 2,800, so you have to take into account the amount of men you're bringing. I could go halfway between those 2 units and for roughly the same price, bring 4 units of Chaos Warriors. A pretty good unit, a strong unit. It's going to be shorter than my Marauder line, but longer than my chosen line. You can of course bring a mixture of units, but to be honest you don't know what your opponent's going to bring, so there is no really right or wrong answer. With some factions you can bolster your battle line with monsters. So this really cheap Skeleton Warrior battle line isn't that great, but bolster it with a couple of units of Crypt Horrors and they become pretty dangerous. So this is an example of how you can get pretty creative with your formations. So to show this in battle a little better, I've got 9 units of Chaos Marauders. They cost 3,600 altogether. For the same price, 3,600, I've got 3 units of Hammerers. 9 units on 3 units. Who do you think is going to win? The disadvantage of having a shorter battle line is that it's easier for you to be flanked because there's no one there to stop the extra men running around behind your units like so, meaning your wings are going to have their work cut out for them. But usually if you have a longer battle line, you probably have the cheaper battle line as well, meaning the shorter battle line probably has stronger units which are more likely to break your centre, so it kind of evens out in a way. But there are so many variables with this sort of thing. Very rarely will two battle lines clash without any damage. Obviously there's artillery involved, missiles involved. Whether they take damage before they get to the battle is a big thing. So don't think just because you have a shorter battle line that you're at a major disadvantage. If you can buy your centre enough time to break through the enemy's centre, you can turn things around quite easily. So be aware of numbers and don't be afraid to use the cheaper units. They might just surprise you. Now to talk about the wings and the options they have. So hopefully by now you know that your wings are here and here, on the edges, to either press the enemy flanks or defend your own. Now very often you'll see people bring out their cavalry really wide in an attempt to get right around the back of you and attack the rear of your battle line, as I've mentioned. So we're looking to defend this, so how can we do that? We've got a couple of different options. Of course the obvious choice is to send your cavalry out to meet them or simply try to press on their flanks instead of letting them do it to you. But when is this a good idea? It all depends on the units you have and the matchups you get. On my right wing I've got Pistoliers and Empire Knights. Not a strong side really. On the left I've got 2 units of Reichsguard. They can handle themselves, so I'm pretty safe to send them out by themselves. I could send off my right wing even if they're slightly outmatched, but send some halberdiers or some kind of spear unit with them to even the odds. Or if I have a weaker side or both my sides are weak, I could play more defensively and take my halberds, put them across like this, and like this, kind of box myself in a little bit, but it makes it a little bit harder for my enemy to flank me. If they keep moving further and further around, I can quite simply move further and further around. But obviously there's a limit to this really, but you can use the cavalry to help out. Now if you have a strong part of your army, like here I've got 2 greatsword units on the right side of my centre, the rest is just swordsmen, and I've got my Reichsguard on the same side. So if I made a heavy push forward with my entire right side, there's a good chance I could break my opponent's left wing and left side and flank in behind him. So be sure to check your matchups and you can pretty much predict the outcome of each engagement. Now let's do this with a full battle. So I've got my formation, my enemy's on the way. They don't have much of a formation because it's the AI and they kind of suck like that, but they put their cavalry out wide. So I could quite simply go out to meet them. Send out my Reichsguard here, send up my left wing cav and engage them that way. Of course they're trying to do, like I said earlier, they're just trying to get right round the back. They're going to come all the way around here, looking to get a nice rear charge on any of my frontline units. So I'm looking to prevent this, of course. Now on my right wing, I've got my Reichsguard, 2 units, and the Halberdiers. They're defending against these incoming cavalry. So let's have a look at the matchup, see who the Reichsguard are up against. What units are they facing? 2 Reichsguard against Savage Orc Boar Boy Biggins and Orc Boar Boy. So 1 tough unit and 1 not so tough unit. So that's an engagement I can win. So I'll send my Reichsguard off to deal with that. On the other side, I've got Pistoliers and Empire Knights. Not the strongest of cavalries, against Orc Boar Boys and Savage Orc Boar Boy Biggins. So on the left flank, that's most likely an engagement I won't win. So I need to think of something else to deal with these Savage Orc Boar Boy Biggins. Because if I send these 2 units up, they're probably going to go bye-byes. So what I could do is, as I said earlier, use the spears. Take my halberds up to help them out, and there's a good chance I could win that engagement. But for the purpose of this demo, I'm going to play defensively on that side. Now let's make this happen, shall we? So my ever dangerous Reichsguard, let's move them over and poise them to get ready to attack. And on the left wing, let's start with the Halberdiers actually, let's turn them to face the enemy. They have a charge defense bonus, so if they get charged, it's going to do not a lot to them. On the right wing, moving up my Reichsguard. The enemy has just arrived pretty much, so we're going to issue an attack order on them, get the Reichsguard moving. And I know I can win that battle on the right wing. 2 Reichsguard are always going to beat those 2 units that they're facing. There's no 2 ways about it. The facts are the facts. The stats are the stats. A spell will be the only way to change those stats. Now on my left, I'm going to bring some skirmishers over to help on the left wing. This is a good viable option that you can use for your wings as well, sending over skirmishers to help. And I'm going to send these halberders over to help my Reichsguard. Not that they need it, but for what there is of the enemy's battle line, it's not wider than my line, so I don't need those halberdiers to bolster the length of my front. On the left, these cavalry are still moving around. My missiles are coming up. They can hopefully do a little bit of damage. Going to put my battle line in a locked group so that I can issue an auto attack order. I'm just going to go with the auto. Not too fussed who they attack. I don't think it's going to matter too much. We'll see. I might end up regretting that, but it's okay. It's okay. And we pretty much won on the right side now, so that's all good. The left side looks like it's just about to kick off, so let's arrange these a little bit better. Let's just check a few last army things. Okay, so they're coming now. Just going to make sure my skirmishers are on skirmish. Good. So they're looking like they're going to charge my halberdiers. So I'm going to be prepared for that, but... Oh! Cheeky. At the last second they turned and charged my Empire Knights in the side. The AI and their wily tricks. But uh-oh, they left one of the boar units unchecked. Reserve time. This is why I've got my reserve spearmen here. The boarmen could get a charge in the back of one of my units. They may end up hitting the skirmishers, which is probably preferable than them hitting my great swords, but for some reason the AI is stupid and has turned away from doing that and has decided to get involved on the left wing fight, which is good for me. Silly for them, but good for me. So one of my right guard has done a run-up, so we need to bring them back. But we've pretty much won on the right wing, and the left wing is looking good. The centre, there's a couple of holes. I'm going to try and fill that with these reserves. Now that I've won on the wings, I have free reign of the back of their line. I can bring my cavalry round and do what I want pretty much. So I'm going to take these right guard, bring them around the back here. And my Empire Knights and Pistoliers are pretty much ready to go for some kind of rear assault on the enemy's battle line. Going to use these halberdiers to keep protecting the wing just in case those boars come back. And my Empire Knights are ready to charge. So because we've won on the wing, I'm now able to get a nice charge in the back of the enemy's front lines, which is going to help out the rest of my army a hell of a lot. And my Pistoliers can get into the skirmishers and begin our utter destruction of the enemy army. Now my Reichsguard have just arrived. They're going to get themselves in a charge, and they have a massive charge bonus, so they're going to do a hell of a lot of damage, and this is really going to seal the deal. So this is just one example of how a battle could play out. There's so many variables, as I always say, so don't expect things to always go down this way. There's so many different army builds out there, and it depends whether you're playing online or offline. Offline, you can typically see what the army is. If you're playing on the campaign, you can see what you're up against and you can plan effectively. Online, depending on the opponent's faction, you have to try and guess what they might bring. Sometimes you get it right, sometimes you get it wrong, but you can win either way. Even if you get like a really bad build matchup, you can still potentially win. So there we have it, some of the basics of formation and battle lines and how to apply them in Total War Warhammer. All this stuff is based on actual ancient warfare and the way it went down. The whole centre, left wing, right wing is an actual thing of how battles used to work. So of course, that's why it goes down so well in Total War games. You'll see a lot of the top players playing this way. But anyway, I hope you found this useful, and thanks for watching. I'll be doing many more videos like this, tactical stuff, strategy stuff, so join me if you care to. I've been Zerkovich, you've been the viewer. Now go and mobilise your battle line, goddammit.